I drove this Kia Soul clockwise around the United States over the course of 4.5 months. So when it comes to road trips, I know what I'm talking about. And since summer is the perfect time for road trips, these are my definitive rules. Now, some of you might disagree with me about this first rule, but it is born out of experience. 3 is the perfect number of people to go on a road trip, okay? When I started the 4-month road trip around the United States, it was just me and my sister. However, my mom planned to fly into the Midwest so we could visit all of her family and friends there. Now, my little sister Gracie and I had an awesome time when it was just the 2 of us. However, I personally feel like we leveled up when it was the 3 of us in the car together. The 3 of us have also done plenty of other long haul road trips together. So I am of the personal opinion 3 is the perfect number, and this is why. There's always a tiebreaker. If you're arguing between 2 people, you know, you could go back and forth for forever. But if there's 3, it's an odd number. There's always somebody to break the tie. And an even more practical reason is you have somebody to complain to about the other person, right? If there's 3 of you, you can take turns going in a triangle, complaining about the other people, blowing off some steam. It's very helpful when you are together for such a long amount of time in such a small space. When we're planning a big road trip, we tend to just divide responsibilities based on our skill sets. So somebody takes care of all the activities and the route, somebody takes care of lodging and transportation, and somebody takes care of the meals. We find this works best for us because my mom and I love to plan in advance. We love to know the route and where we're going and find things to do. And my sister doesn't like doing that as much. So her job is always to find the meals while we're on the road. Having these assigned roles really cut down on any sort of bickering that would happen between us. Like, we always know that my sister is going to take care of meals and that my mom is always going to take care of the hotel, and I will always figure out what we are going to do and when we are going to do it. Does this mean that we don't help each other? No, we give ideas or suggestions, but ultimately, somebody is the team captain for every category and they make the final decision. We try to always remember that we are working as a team and that the goal of this is to have fun. But sometimes tensions get high when you're spending so much time together. I know this may seem like overkill, but we also have roles and responsibilities for when we arrive to a gas station. So typically, my sister is always going to be the first one to need a potty break. So she will run in and use the bathroom. And then my job is to get all the bugs off the windshield because my mom doesn't like it when there's bugs on the windshield. So whether or not she's driving, I will do the windshield really quickly, and then my mom will fill up with gas. And then we continue to rotate, right? So one of us will go back into the bathroom, somebody will finish up on the back windshield. We just kind of work together as a team to make it as efficient as possible so we can get back on the road. There is one thing we will never miss at a gas station stop, and that is the stretch. People around us are always laughing, always giggling, and you know what? That's fine. If I make somebody's day because I'm doing some sort of workout routine at a gas station stop, there are worse things. It is so important, especially on these long trips, to make sure that you stretch at the gas station stop. It stops your legs from getting numb, it stops your back from hurting as much, and it's just a good opportunity to get out, do some jumping jacks, do some squats, and then, you know, do some stretches to keep the blood flowing into your muscles. When we get back on the road, there are also some assigned responsibilities and duties based on where you're sitting in the car. So the driver's responsibility is only to drive. They are worried about safety, they are worried about the road, they are worried about the car and how it is operating, but their only responsibility is to drive. The co-pilot, whoever's sitting in the passenger seat, takes care of everything else. They take care of the route, they take care of any reservations that need to be adjusted or made, they take care of finding a gas station or a grocery store, and they also take care of what is playing on the radio. And even though they are in charge of picking it out and getting it hooked up to Bluetooth, the driver gets preference on what we are listening to. So whether that's podcast or music, we always defer to the driver because that's the most boring of the jobs. I am someone who has a ton of ideas, like my brain just blah, 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 whenever I'm driving. So sometimes the co-pilot also has to be a scribe, which I know you guys, it's a nightmare to go on a road trip with me, but I'm always having these ideas. So I'm like, oh, would you write this down for me? Would you send me this text? Would you da 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 da? And my mom and my sister are very good about doing that for me. Finally, whoever is in the back seat is catering. And I have a lot more thoughts about this as well, but basically we always have a ton of snacks and a cooler, and whoever's in the back seat is in charge of managing all of that, so they can arrange it however they want to make it easily accessible for them to grab things here and there. But Ultimately, if we need something up here, the person in the back is getting it for us. I know it may sound ridiculous to have such stringent assignments as to who's doing what or who is responsible for what, especially because you're all on this trip together and, you know, whatever happens, happens. But if I know what I'm responsible for and you know what you're responsible for, I find that things tend to go a lot more smoothly over the long haul of being together, you know, days or weeks or sometimes months in the car. So I found that being clear about expectations right at the top really helps the trip go smoothly overall. That was basically kind of preparation and basic structure of how we plan our trips. Sometimes the vibes can dip when you're on a long drive and you're tired or you're sore or your back hurts or whatever. So something we always do is when we're keeping an eye on the navigation and we're keeping an eye on the road, when we get to a whole number on the navigation, like if we have 2 hours left or if we have 1 hour left, when it gets to that whole number, we announce it out loud and we just say 3 or 2 or 1. And it's just like a little, woo, we're doing it. We're on our way. We're almost there. And for some reason, that always like boosts my mood 10% because it shows that we're making progress. It's a moment that we can have of celebration. And it's just really fun to be like, oh my gosh, I caught it, because, you know, it's only going to be there for about a minute, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. So it's fun to be like, oh, I caught it. It's like seeing 11:11 on the clock or something. It's just like a fun little celebration to include. Another thing we do just to keep us organized and make sure everybody's on the same page is I create a shared Google sheet and we basically dump all of our information into there. So anything that any of us have planned goes into the Google sheet. So we're not asking each other constantly, oh, what's going on tomorrow? What did you plan? What are you thinking? How much is this going to cost? All of that information is put in the shared sheet. So if you have any questions about the trip that we're on, you just go to the sheet and all of the information is there. So in my last video, I talked about how my sister is usually in charge of doing all the meals while we're on the trip because she doesn't like to plan in advance. And the meals are really easy for her to do the day of. When we're on our way somewhere, we can figure out what we're in the mood for. So what she'll do is she'll jump into our spreadsheet, she'll see where we're headed, and then she'll be able to pick a place on the way. This is also nice because when we're on an extended trip, I can share this with my dad. I can share this with my friend. If they're like, oh, where are you headed? Here's all the information of where we will be and when. Something I believe firmly in is the law of expansion. When we are in the car, we could pack 3 suitcases and 3 backpacks very effectively and efficiently. But no matter what, when we get to a hotel, there's twice as much stuff in the back of this car. I don't know how it happens, but I have just come to accept it. Things are going to expand. Because of this, we use our little 1, 2, 3 system. My mom usually goes in and checks us into wherever we're staying. My sister goes in and grabs a luggage cart, and I am in charge of positioning the car so that we can effectively unload and take everything inside. I used to be somebody who was like, oh no, let's just shove it back in the bag. It'll be fine, blah, 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 blah. We're just going to unpack when we get inside anyway. So just get the luggage cart. I know it seems like a hassle, but I think it saves a lot of time and energy in the long run. So grab the luggage cart, throw all of your stuff onto it, take it inside, park the car. I am wondering if I'm alone on the luggage cart thing. So let me know if you're a luggage cart person or not, because for some reason, to me, it's never worth it to try and handle all of it just in our arms. We have to get the cart. Now, this might be a little bit of a controversial take, but I'm a firm believer in sleeping in. I think the general thought might be to get up early, hit the road, and get to wherever you're going. However, we don't like our stuff to sit in the car when we're out doing an activity, and a lot of hotels or wherever you're staying won't let you check in until 3 or 4 p.m. So one thing that we try to do is limit our drives to 5 hours or less. So if we're heading out at 7, 8, 9, our hotel is not going to be ready for a couple of hours, and we don't want our stuff to sit in the heat, and we don't want people to be breaking into our car because there's a bunch of stuff in here. So we tend to take some slow mornings when we're on the road, check in immediately when we can, and then have an evening to ourselves to enjoy the new place that we're in. Now, when I say sleep in, I don't necessarily mean we are sleeping until 8 or 9 or 10 a.m. I mean, like, we're just kind of taking advantage of the time that we have. So we're probably getting up in the morning, 7, 8, 8:30. We're probably eating the hotel breakfast because that's something huge that we always try to book, a hotel with breakfasts. We're probably using the gym for a little bit, or if there's a pool, my mom loves to do water aerobics. So she will jump in the morning, do a quick session of water aerobics, and then rinse off in the shower before we go. We're probably reviewing what's ahead. We're probably answering any emails. We're just taking advantage of the time that we have and then checking out when we we absolutely have to. And then this allows us to problem solve anything that we need to the morning of without feeling really stressed of, oh my gosh, we're already on the road, we have to do it. You know, things are going to come up, and sometimes you do have to problem solve when you're in the middle of it, but we can look at the route, we can see if there's any roadblocks or detours or anything that we're going to encounter, and we can figure it out beforehand. Now, in terms of activities, I mentioned that I'm usually the planner. I do a lot of research on social media prior, or TripAdvisor, or, you know, I'm always just looking for cool things to do in places that we're going. So I typically have most of that planned before we ever hit the road. However, sometimes things come up, sometimes things come across our desk that we were unaware of before. So our general rule is, if it's 5 minutes from us, we're going to do it. We're pretty much going to shuffle our schedule. We're going to make it happen. If it's up to 30 minutes away, we'll discuss it. We will take it into consideration, but it's a little bit harder of a sell to go 30 minutes out of your way when you are already putting in long hours on the road. And it's also difficult if you have a bunch of stuff in the car. So there are just different things we have to take into account. And if it's over 30 minutes away, generally we save it for later. In order to keep track of all the cool things that we would want to do again, or recommend to our friends, or try for the next time, we just make notes of it in our spreadsheets. So in the destination tab, we'll say, loved this, 5 stars. Next time I would bring XYZ. We didn't get to try this, but definitely want to do next time. Now, I love my Kia Soul. It has more space than you might imagine, but we did a couple things to maximize our space on this road trip, and I think they were genius. So let me tell you about them. First, I was really worried about the trunk space. The trunk is a flat trunk instead of like this kind of trunk. So I just didn't think we were going to fit too much in there. So I was really worried about the ability to stack things up high enough and also have access to the things on the bottom when we might need them. So I asked my friend Ashley to help me build a shelf, and she did such a good job. So she helped me build the shelf to put in my trunk so that we could have things underneath and we could have things on top, and it just made access to everything so much more simple. The other thing that we found from being on the road for so long is that under the seat storage is completely slept on space. If you look under your seat, there is so much room down there. It's never used. This is where we stored anything that didn't necessarily have to come in and out of the car with us every single day, but we wanted to have at a moment's notice. Binoculars were a big one. We had 2 pairs of binoculars in the car, one under each of the front seats, and mostly they were accessible to the person in the back seat. So, you know, the front seat people are not going to be reaching down and digging for these. This is going to be the back seat person who's like able to access these the most easily. So we had some binoculars in case we came across any wildlife. Another huge one for us was toilet paper. We stuffed a bunch of rolls under there. Again, not to out my sister. She always has to pee, okay? Always. And I have been known to have to pee from time to time as well. So if we need to squat, we need some toilet paper handy, and that went under the seats. Other things that we found ourselves stuffing in there and reaching for a ton were changes of shoes. If you don't want to bring in and out your shoes from wherever you're staying, stuff them under the seat. Then they're super accessible. You're going to need them on the go anyway. If you're feeling uncomfortable in one pair, you can easily switch them out with having to dig through a complete suitcase. It was really, really helpful to have our shoes handy under the seat. I think each of us brought a couple of swimsuits, so we also had like a swimsuit readily accessible just in case, you know, we wanted to do a spontaneous dip somewhere. I think that only happened once, but good to have. And last but not least, plastic bags. Plastic bags of all sizes. I would recommend having like one trash bag just in case. You can cut it, you can use it as a tarp if you need to put anything. I don't know. Plastic bags always come in handy, but mostly grocery store bags. So when we go to the grocery store, we stash all of our bags under the seat because you never know what they're going to come in handy for. You know, God forbid somebody's feeling sick. Use as a barf bag. You can put dirty shoes in there. We are huge shell collectors. When we went from Florida up to Virginia, we did a ton of stops to Shell, and yeah, those bags came in handy all the time. It's just a really easy thing that you can do to help be prepared for whatever might come your way. Another thing that I have to insist upon is that you bring a cooler. Sometimes we're staying with friends and family, and sometimes we're staying in hotels, so you never really know if you're going to have a fridge or not, but it is so handy to have a small cooler with you. Ours is not very big, and it was so nice to have. We constantly have leftovers, and so they need to go somewhere. We don't want to waste our food, especially because when we're eating out so much, it is so expensive. So we just packaged it in some tinier containers that we brought, and we would always put it in the cooler. I was thankful on multiple occasions that we had brought it. And speaking of meals, we really try to limit ourselves to purchasing only one meal a day. So typically, if we are at a hotel, we are at a hotel that serves breakfast. So we are eating breakfast at the hotel. That's an included expense, so we don't have to worry about that. We're also drinking hotel coffee. We rarely, if ever, go out for coffee when we are on a trip. And if we do, it's because we need it. Like, we need to keep our eyes open in order to keep driving. We just find it's an expense that racks up so quickly. And especially because there's 3 of us, it's just something that we try to cut out and spend our money doing other things. That leaves lunch and dinner. So lunch is usually something that we eat while we're driving because, again, we're trying to drive in that midday section. So we'll typically have lunch on the go, which means that we have packed snacks, or we'll stop at a grocery store, or we will eat some leftovers. And that's typically just something to kind of keep us plowing through the day. If we eat a heavy meal in the middle of the day, it just completely tanks our energy, and then driving in the car is 50 times worse than it was before. So we tend to just eat a light lunch. Usually it's just a compilation of snacks, and then we save dinner for wherever our destination is. That way, when we arrive, we have something that we're looking forward to. We have a reason to get out and about that evening, and we get to try a new local spot, which I always think is a blessing. But that said, because we're on the go, we don't have a refrigerator, we will tend to share meals. So that also keeps the cost down. If we walk into a restaurant, we're looking around, we're seeing how big the portions are, and we're kind of having a discussion amongst ourselves like, okay, how hungry are you? Should we split this? Should we split that? So that we don't have an excess of food. Being on the road for so long can be incredibly expensive. I've already mentioned that we rarely, if ever, get coffee and just do one meal out a day, but these are some things that we almost never buy, and the primary reason is to just keep costs down. Water. We will never buy water. All 3 of us always have water bottles on us, and anytime there's an opportunity to fill it up, we are taking that opportunity and we are drinking from our reusable water bottles. Souvenirs. We don't buy them. I think I only have like a handful of souvenirs from my trips. It's because I make videos. I feel like those are my souvenirs, so I get to remember the experiences and the opportunities that we've had, but I don't need something like physical to hold on to. If I do get a souvenir, it's frequently a piece of clothing, something that I really love that I want to add to my wardrobe, and then I can think about the trip every time I wear it. But yeah, very, very rarely are we buying things on our trips. We're really not big drinkers, so you won't catch us out at the bars. We're not spending any money on alcohol. In fact, we're really not spending any money on any drinks whatsoever. When we go out to eat at a restaurant where we don't get soda, again, we're usually just drinking water. So these are just small things that we are fine with going without, and it's just to keep the cost down overall. Generally, we're also booking really, really cheap hotels. We spend most of our days out. Safety is obviously a huge concern, but as long as we're, in a safe space, we're not going to be spending time in the hotel, so we're happy to sleep wherever. What we are spending money on is experiences. So we love doing activities in the places that we're in. So that's what we are putting our money towards. And anytime there's something that comes our way that we might want to spend our money on, we really weigh the opportunity cost. Oh, this is the equivalent of doing this activity. What is more important to us? And that just really helps make the decisions easier. I love a good road trip. We are already planning our next one. So if there's anything that I didn't mention that you think is worth mentioning, absolutely let me know, because I'm always looking to refine our process. If you can't tell, I'm a type A personality, so pros and cons, but definitely makes hours on end in the car interesting.